You married him!" My mother barked, her voice slicing through the silence like glass through skin. The sound of her wine glass slamming onto the dining table still rings in my head. The way it clinked louder than it should have, final, made the entire room flinch. My name is Claire Dawson. I was 28 years old that night, and that was the exact moment I realized blood doesn't mean loyalty, especially when money's involved. Across from me, my father sat rigid, every wrinkle in his forehead folding deeper with disappointment. His voice was slow, controlled, deadly. "You had offers, Claire. Good men. From respectable families, and then like a punch to the chest. Instead, you married a broke contractor with dirt under his nails." I blinked. My mouth was dry, my heartbeat in my throat. My husband, Liam Hayes, sat beside me, calm, too calm. His hand found mine under the table, gripping it tightly. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. He just stared back at them with eyes that said, "You know nothing about me." But it got worse. Maddie, my older sister, the golden child, the one with perfect hair, a husband in finance, and a wardrobe of curated beige, leaned forward and sneered. "No trust fund, no inheritance, no backup plan. When he leaves or cheats or fails, you'll crawl back." And then she said it, my mother. The woman who once braided my hair for kindergarten pictures, who used to cry when I got sick. "You're no longer welcome in this house, Claire." Deadpan. Delivered like a sentence, as if I were trash, as if I had shamed them all by loving someone they didn't approve of. I looked around. My father had already turned his gaze away. Maddie was swirling her wine. Dean, my brother, usually the quiet one, didn't even meet my eyes. My aunt kept sipping her drink, pretending this wasn't happening. The walls I grew up inside suddenly didn't feel like home. They felt like a courtroom, and I was the accused. So I stood, still shaking. "I won't be back," I said. Not loudly, just with certainty. I reached for Liam's hand, and together we walked out the front door. No one stopped us. Not one person tried. We drove through the darkness in silence. His pickup was old, the heater rattling, and my mascara had smudged down my cheek. I stared out the window, lips trembling, chest aching. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I never thought they'd Liam pulled over. He turned to me. Not angry, not even sad, just calm, steady. "Claire," he said, "I don't care about any of that." I nodded, but tears filled my eyes. "I just hate that you had to see it." And then he did something that stopped my heart. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a velvet box. My breath caught. But it wasn't a ring. It was a key. "I wasn't going to show you this until next week," he said quietly. "But maybe now's the right time." "What is it?" I asked, confused. "Come with me," he said. 10 minutes later, we turned through tall black iron gates, and I saw it. Acres of forest, a long winding drive, and at the end of it all, a house. No, an estate. Like something out of a design magazine. Modern, secluded, stunning. I stared, stunned. "What is this?" I asked. He parked. "My house," Liam said casually. "One of them." I turned, heart pounding. "You told me you lived in that one-bedroom apartment." He shrugged. "I did. For you." I blinked. "What do you mean?" I needed to know. He said slowly, "If you were marrying me. Not what I have." My entire world shifted in that second. Everything I'd thought I knew about my life cracked wide open. "I'm the majority owner of Hayes Group," he said. "Real estate development. Private. We never attached my name publicly. I couldn't breathe." "Claire, you passed the test your family failed." 5 days passed. We didn't answer a single call. I watched sunsets from a villa balcony outside Seattle. I wore Liam's sweatshirts. I drank his coffee. And I healed. But on the 5th day, my phone buzzed. Maddie. Claire. "Can we talk?" Then Mom. Then Dean. Then a voicemail from my aunt. Suddenly they missed me. Suddenly Liam was hardworking. Suddenly I was valuable again. But what they didn't know, I'd already filed the legal requests to sever them from the family trust. I'd already cut every financial tie they thought they controlled. and I'd already sent the dinner audio their cruel words to the board of the nonprofit my father chaired. I wasn't playing defense anymore. They wanted war. I brought truth. And the real show was just beginning. The morning of the open estate event, I woke up before the sun. The air was sharp outside, and for once my nerves weren't chaos. They were calm. Like my body already knew today would be different. Today they would see me. Not the daughter they dismissed, not the black sheep they kicked out, but the woman they built without realizing. I wore a simple black dress. Nothing flashy, no designer labels screaming for attention, just elegance, poise, power in silence. Liam met me at the bottom of the grand staircase. He offered a smile, soft and reassuring, like he'd been waiting for this day long before I ever imagined it. "Still want to go through with it?" he asked. I didn't hesitate, more than ever. We stood on the balcony for a while, watching the black SUVs pull in one by one. It was like watching the past arrive in perfectly timed intervals. First, Maddie heels clicking blazer-tailored sunglasses on through the sky was cloudy. Her husband trailed behind her, already scrolling through his phone like this was just another networking event. Then Mom, hair sprayed into a helmet, her posture rigid. She looked like she hadn't slept. And finally Dad, navy suit, tired eyes, a man who used to tower over me emotionally, now looked like he'd shrunk under the weight of his own choices. They walked into the estate like they still owned the world. They had no idea what was coming. Downstairs, the space was humming with quiet elegance. Investors, agents, and press mingled under crystal chandeliers. Champagne was flowing. Everyone was dressed in money. And then I entered. The room paused just for a second, but I felt it. Eyes turned. Whispers began. I walked down the marble staircase slowly, deliberately. My heels made no sound, just presence. And there they were, my family, frozen in disbelief. Claire, my mother, finally managed. It wasn't warm. It wasn't even curious. It was confusion wrapped in fear. "Thank you all for coming," I said smoothly. "My husband and I are honored to unveil Hayes Legacy Estates." Dad stepped forward, voice hesitant. You own this." I tilted my head slightly. "Liam built it. I added my name to the ownership yesterday." Maddie gave a short, sharp laugh. "So this isn't just a fluke. This is real. Very real," I said, with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. My mother's mouth open, probably rehearsing some version of an apology. But I stopped her with a single raised hand. "I think there's something you all should see." Liam gave the signal. A projection screen descended behind me, and then their own voices filled the room. "You had offers, Claire. Decent men. No future with a contractor. You're no longer welcome in this house." The room went still. The press froze. Some guests gasped. I didn't look at my family. I didn't need to. I could feel them unraveling behind me. "You recorded us?" Dad asked, voice cracking. "I needed to remember," I said calmly, "what it felt like to be discarded, so that when you inevitably came running back, I wouldn't fall for it." Maddie hissed under her breath. "You invited reporters?" I turned to her, eyes locked. "No, you did. You posted the RSVP publicly. You wanted attention. You got it. And then I delivered the final blow. Before you call me cruel, let me remind you I begged you to see Liam for who he was, not what he lacked. You mocked me. You mocked us. And now you think this reunion is about love. It's not. You didn't find your way back to me. You found your way to his net worth." The air was suffocating. My mother's jaw trembled. Maddie's face flushed red. Dad just stood there stuck. And that's when Liam stepped forward beside me. This estate, he said, clearly will host quarterly charity events, legal aid clinics for evicted tenants, job training for single parents. "That's ridiculous," my mother scoffed. "What does that have to do with real estate?" "Everything I said. We build homes, not just houses, and we don't build for people who break their own," Maddie snapped. "So that's it. You cut us off over one mistake. We're family, Claire." I looked at her, long, deep, without blinking. "I didn't cut you off because of one mistake. I cut you off because your true self showed the second money was off the table." Silence followed. No dramatic exit, no screaming match, just the quiet truth settling like a fog around them. They finally understood I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't coming back. And the door they slammed in my face, it was now locked from the inside. That night, Liam and I sat on the rooftop terrace of the estate. The lights of the city blinked in the distance. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. But something still churned inside me. Not rage, not pride, just drained. "You okay?" Liam asked, his voice gentle. I leaned into his shoulder. "Yeah, just tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of hoping they'd change." We sat in silence until my phone buzzed. A message from Dean. "Claire, I didn't know they'd kick you out. I didn't say anything that night because I didn't want to make it worse, but Maddie's not letting this go. She's furious. She's planning something. Be careful." My blood went cold. Liam read the message over my shoulder. "Let her come," he said. "We're not afraid of tantrums." But I knew. Maddie's tantrums didn't come with screaming. They came wrapped in fake smiles, rumors, and carefully aimed destruction. And I had a feeling she was just getting started. The next morning, I opened my inbox and froze. Subject line urgent statement requested regarding allegations. The sender, the Seattle Herald. Inside was a forwarded tip they had received from an anonymous source. My stomach dropped. It accused Liam's company of being under federal investigation. The words money laundering and tax fraud jumped off the screen. Baseless. Vicious. A complete lie. And I didn't need to guess who sent it. Maddie. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a tactical strike. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling. Baby Liam called from the doorway. What happened, I couldn't even speak. I just turned the screen toward him. He read it silently, then looked up, face unreadable. "They're trying to destroy you," I whispered. "They want to ruin everything." By noon, the blogs were already picking it up. By 2 p.m., 3 of our investors had pulled out temporarily to assess public risk. By 5, I was sitting across from our lawyer in a glass-walled office downtown. "You want to sue your sister for defamation?" he asked slowly. I stared at him unblinking. "No," I said. "I want to expose her. Every lie, every dirty move. I want her to learn that you don't play with fire while drenched in gasoline." Liam watched me from across the room. He didn't stop me. He just nodded. That night, we didn't go home. We drove into the city, to the penthouse Maddie once flaunted at every family gathering. The one she claimed she bought with her own money, even though we all knew Dad had funneled cash through a private gift fund to make it happen. Liam waited in the car. I walked to the door and knocked. Maddie opened it, already smirking. "Here to beg me to retract it," she asked, voice sticky with sarcasm. Too late. "Half the city's talking. Took me 10 minutes. I stepped inside. I wasn't asking. "You don't know who you're playing with," I said calmly. "You think because you can fabricate a few anonymous tips you've won." She laughed. "I have won. You're not cut out for this world, Claire. You got lucky. But luck runs out." I looked around her, place designer bags, half-drunk wine bottles, candles burned down to wax puddles. Everything looked curated for Instagram but screamed desperation. "You tried to destroy the one person who's ever truly loved me," I said. "And for what? For attention, relevance." Her smile faltered. "You're pathetic," I whispered. "And I'm done being nice." She raised an eyebrow. "What are you going to do, sue me?" I smiled. "No, I already did something better." I reached into my purse and pulled out a flash drive, placed it quietly on her sleek glass coffee table. "Your husband's been cheating for 9 months. With your yoga instructor." Maddie's face cracked. "Don't look so shocked. I stayed quiet when you paraded him around, when you posted anniversary reels. I said nothing." She lunged forward, trying to grab the drive, but I was already out the door. "You can't do this," she screamed behind me. I turned once. I already did. 2 days passed. No texts, no threats, no Instagram stories, nothing. Maddie had gone dark, but her silence wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. On the third morning, Liam and I were having coffee on the terrace when his phone rang. It was his attorney. He stepped aside to take the call. Came back pale. "What is it?" I asked. He handed me the phone. The lawyer's voice was low, serious. "We've received an official audit request, IRS. Technically, it's random. But someone filed a complaint that triggered the review." I clenched my jaw. "Maddie," I said flatly. Liam nodded once. "She's digging deeper. She wants to bury us." And that's when something inside me snapped. They had humiliated me, cut me off, tried to ruin my marriage. Now they were targeting our company enough. I opened my laptop that night and pulled out everything I had. Screenshots, old emails, voice memos, tax paperwork, texts between my father and his silent business partners. I remembered one New Year's dinner, Dad half drunk on red wine, bragging about how they use shell companies to avoid tax on a downtown real estate deal. He thought I wasn't listening, but I was. I had names, dates, bank routes, even WhatsApp threads Dad once showed off to impress his friends. And I never imagined I'd use them. But I also never imagined my family would try to destroy the one person who had only ever protected me. The next morning, I drove alone to a small brick building on 5th and Kennedy. I handed the man at the front desk a sealed envelope. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. And I walked out lighter than I had in months. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. 24 hours later, the world started shaking. News alert: Dawson Realty under federal review. Headline: allegations. Surface regarding tax avoidance shell companies and off-book deals. The article didn't name me, but Maddie would know. She called that night. I didn't answer. 35 missed calls later, I finally shut the phone off. She had thrown fire at our lives. I had simply held up a mirror. The letter came folded in perfect thirds. No return address, no handwritten love or signature flourish, just a tight clip note from someone who once claimed to love me. "Claire, you've made your point. Congratulations. You've destroyed your own blood. I hope it was worth it. Mom." I read it once, then again. And then I slid it into a drawer, closed it, and walked outside. Liam was in the garden pruning the wild jasmine we'd planted last summer. "Everything okay?" he asked. I looked at him. This man who never raised his voice at me, never doubted me, never made me beg for love. The man my family mocked without knowing the one they couldn't control. "Yeah," I whispered. "They can say whatever they want now. I'm finally free." He took my hand and didn't let go. But I wasn't done yet. There was still one person I hadn't heard from. One person whose silence wasn't like Maddie's malicious quiet or my mother's manipulative distance. My father. I found him exactly where I knew he'd be. Top floor of the Dawson Realty Tower downtown. The glass building that once bore our family name in etched silver letters across the lobby. Now, the letters were gone. Just a faint ghost of adhesive remained like a monument to something that had already died. No receptionist greeted me. No assistant offered coffee. I walked straight to the office door, heart steady. He looked up when I entered. No tie. Sleeves rolled. Hair grayer than I remembered. His eyes, once sharp and commanding, looked hollow now. Small. "Claire," he said, almost relieved. "You came." I didn't answer. I pulled the chair across from his and sat arms crossed, legs still. He studied me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe I always had been. "I know what you did," he said. "Which part?" I asked. "Defending my husband, refusing to let you bury him, or exposing the empire you built on lies." He didn't speak, didn't deny it either. Just stared at the polished surface of his desk like he could avoid the truth if he looked hard enough. "You made your point," he finally muttered. "Maddie's unraveling. Your mother won't leave the bedroom. Dean won't return my calls." His voice cracked. "You tore this family apart." I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "You did." The night you looked at me and said I was no longer welcome because I didn't fit your mold, because Liam didn't meet your expectations, because control meant more to you than your daughter's happiness. He exhaled heavily, hands curled into loose fists. You don't understand. I was trying to protect you. I laughed low and bitter. By mocking me, by cutting me off, by helping Maddie send fake financial complaints to the media. He flinched. His silence told me everything. I used to look up to you, I whispered, even when you were cold, even when I was the invisible child. I thought there was some higher reason for your distance, that maybe someday I'd be enough. He looked away. But now I see clearly. You don't love. You manage. You control. And the second I stepped out of that cage, you panicked. I stood. I didn't come to argue. I came to say goodbye. He stood too fast, like the words were slipping through his fingers. Claire, I made mistakes, but I'm still your father. You'll always be that, I said quietly. But from this point on, you're nothing more than a chapter I survived. He tried again. You have no idea what you're giving up. I'm not giving up anything. I'm building something. Without you. I walked to the door, paused. It's called The Unbroken Foundation, funded by Liam's firm and mine. He blinked. I'm launching my own venture. For women like me. Women who were broken down by the people meant to protect them. We're starting with a housing project next month. Ribbon cutting is on the 12th. I didn't invite him. I didn't even wait for his reaction. I just left, walked out of that glass tomb with the weight of generations crumbling behind me, not out of spite, not for revenge, for peace, for freedom. For every moment I swallowed pain just to keep a family together while they pulled me apart. That weekend, I stood under an archway of lavender and jasmine with Liam by my side. The ribbon stretched across the entrance of the first completed women's housing complex, fully funded, fully independent, and filled with life. Cameras flashed, supporters clapped. A few old faces from the past hovered in the crowd, family friends who had quietly cut ties with my parents, but found their way back to me. And yet, none of it mattered. Because Liam leaned close and whispered, "You did this?" And I smiled. I did. I thought it was over. The headlines had calmed. Investors were returning. Our nonprofit launch had made the local news. Maddie had gone silent. Mom disappeared from social media. Dad from everything. But with Maddie, silence was never the end. It was a pause. A slow inhale before a final strike. It came the following week. I was reviewing design layouts for our next project when Liam walked into my office phone in hand, jaw tight. She leaked something he said flatly. What I asked, already standing. Your medical records. From 5 years ago, the anxiety medication, the counseling after your miscarriage. I felt the room tilt. That was before Liam. A time I rarely spoke of. The quiet collapse I navigated alone while everyone else in the family celebrated Maddie's second wedding like it was a royal coronation, where I managed Reddit, Twitter, and one very shady gossip blog. I sat down hard, my fingers trembled, my chest squeezed, not because I was ashamed, but because she had gone there. She had reached into the most private part of my history and dragged it into the light just to hurt me. I'm sorry, Liam said, kneeling beside me. We can file a privacy violation. We can fight this. I stared ahead, thoughts racing. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just felt hollow. And then something shifted. I pulled my laptop forward, logged into my press contact sheet, and typed a short email. You want a statement. Here's the truth. The next morning, the story hit the front page. Headline, "Yes, I had a breakdown and I survived it." Claire Dawson opens up in viral op-ed. In it, I wrote every detail. The silent miscarriage, the late nights with no one to call, the medication, the therapy, the way my own mother rolled her eyes when I once said I'm not okay, the way Maddie called me fragile at every family gathering, and how I rebuilt myself piece by piece alone. It was raw. It was real. and I ended it with one line: I wasn't weak, I was healing. And that is not shameful. That is strength. The post went viral within hours. Thousands of women flooded the comments. Emails poured in, messages from survivors, from daughters, from strangers who finally felt seen. The board of our nonprofit issued a public statement of support. Investors applauded my honesty. Even sponsors doubled down. And Maddie, she was invisible. That evening, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Voicemail. I hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice. Shaky. Almost unfamiliar. Claire, I thought... I didn't think you'd... I don't know what I thought. I messed up. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I just... Click. That was it. No apology. Just a whimper of a woman who finally realized she couldn't weaponize pain anymore. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt free. Liam and I walked the beach that night. The sky stretched in deep shades of violet and gold. The wind was soft, the waves calm. "Do you regret it?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. "No," I said. "Not the fight, not the exposure, not even the fallout." He took my hand. "I think I just regret how long I stayed quiet. How long I believed that love had to mean suffering." We stopped near the shoreline. The waves barely touched our toes. "I don't want to build a legacy on revenge," I whispered. "I want to build it on truth." He nodded slowly. "Then that's what we'll do." It came in a plain envelope. No return address, just my name scrawled in rushed handwriting. Inside was a letter. No apology, no closure, just more of the same. "You think you're better than all of us now. That money makes you clean. That your foundation makes you good. But family is still family, Claire. You may have fooled the public, but you'll never erase what you came from. Dad." I folded the letter carefully, walked to the fireplace in our library, and dropped it in the flames. That weekend, Liam and I attended a panel in downtown Seattle. Topic: Breaking Generational Cycles, Women Redefining Power. I sat between a former Supreme Court clerk and a tech founder who rebuilt her life after being disowned. As they shared their stories, I realized something. I wasn't the sad girl with family drama anymore. I was one of them, a builder, a witness, a voice. After the panel, a young woman approached me. She must have been 23, nervous, holding a folder of architecture sketches. "Ms. Dawson, I just wanted to say thank you. I read your op-ed. I was in a toxic family too. I thought I was broken, but you helped me see I'm not." I smiled. "You're not broken. You're becoming." She nodded and handed me her folder. Later that night, I reviewed her sketches. One design stood out. A blueprint of a transitional housing unit, sleek, sustainable, cost-efficient. It had community gardens, childcare spaces, trauma-informed lighting. It was brilliant. I sent her an email that night. "How would you feel about a job offer?" Weeks passed. Our second housing complex opened in Tacoma, a ribbon-cutting, community press, small but powerful. And then something happened. A familiar car pulled up to the event. Dean stepped out. He didn't look like the same man from that dinner table. He walked slowly, hands in pockets. No flash, no arrogance, just grief and guilt. He didn't try to get close, just stood near the back as the speeches began. When it ended, I walked over. He took off his sunglasses and said quietly, "I'm not here to ask for anything. I just wanted to see what you built." I nodded. He hesitated. "Claire." I was a coward. I knew what they were doing was wrong, and I stayed silent. I let them break you because I was afraid they'd turn on me too. I didn't say anything. He looked down at the gravel. "I don't expect forgiveness. I hope you keep going. You're doing something real." And then he walked away. He didn't ask for pictures. He didn't try to apologize for Maddie or Mom or Dad. He just told the truth, and that was enough. Months passed. Maddie's divorce made the news quietly. No statement, no fight. Just a sealed agreement and silence. Dad's company was under full audit. Several properties had already been sold. He was spotted leaving court with a white folder and hollow eyes. Mom never wrote again, and I never responded. A year later, on the first anniversary of the Unbroken Foundation, Liam and I stood before a crowd of women survivors, graduates, tenants turned entrepreneurs. We announced a new partnership with Seattle Public Schools to fund emergency housing for students displaced by domestic violence. Cheers erupted. But I only had eyes for the girl in the front row, the same 23-year-old architect we hired. She stood beside her new design, glowing with pride. "You did this," Liam whispered in my ear. "No," I said. "We did." Sometimes I still think about that night at the dinner table, how easily they erased me, how I almost erased myself. But I didn't just come back stronger. I came back whole, not by winning their approval, but by no longer needing it. If you've ever been cut off, humiliated, or made to feel small by the people who raised you, hear this: you are not broken. You are not fragile. You are not worthless because they couldn't see your worth. You are becoming. And when the world tries to reduce you to a single decision, a failed moment, or a rejection, build something bigger. Let your legacy be the life they never imagined you were strong enough to create. Like this story, smash that button subscribe and drop your city in the comments. And tell us, what's your comeback story? Have you ever been betrayed by the ones who were supposed to protect you? Share below. We read every single one. Thank you for watching. You are not alone, and you are not done.